G'day friends and foes, Arjay here with Arjay's This Is Not Legal Advice, episode 60. I have skipped a few numbers, but I did find that I was overlapping some of the numbers before, so I have to fix the numbering up basically. And I may end up renaming some of the older videos so that they match up. G'day, I see someone's on now, a few people. So in this episode, I'm just going to cover basically what's happening with the COVID-1984 lockdown / directions case, just here at Kawara Beach. We've been here before doing video, but it was in the dark. So anyway, so I will do a quick rundown so that people know what the video is about. So basically, back in April, I started protesting the COVID lockdown. That was before it even started in, the USA, in Michigan, and also in Germany. Also before, it was being done in Australia. So a couple of weeks later, say, Victor Tay started doing exercising my rights in Sydney at the front of the New South Wales Parliament. Part of my videos that I made in April was telling people, hey, look, you're allowed to go out and exercise, so why not exercise and protest at the same time? So anyway, so then I was going to have a big political rally and end the lockdown, what do you call that, protest, and that was, so I was already doing it in Brisbane for say a month as well, and then I went to do it in Surfers Paradise. So I put in for an authorised protest that basically gives people more confidence to go to the protest because, hey, look, it's basically, the government's allowing it, if you want to look at it that way, or they don't object to it technically. And anyway, so I put in for authorised protests in Surfers Paradise. That was illegally opposed by a Queensland police officer who happens to be a sergeant. She took me to court in her private capacity, which she has no legal right to do, after not having the legally required mediation session, etc. So then it went to the Magistrates Court, and hi Earl, Claudio and Jeannie, sorry. I keep saying Jeanne, I don't know why. But anyway, so then it went to the Magistrates Court in Southport. The magistrate didn't follow the law, I submit, and didn't allow me to speak basically, which goes against a thing called two things mainly. One is the no bias rule, so you can't have a decision maker who is biased, who has pre-decided the case, that kind of thing. You also have to have a fair hearing. So part of fair hearing rule is that both sides, or all sides, because you can have multiple parties, have the right to make submissions and be heard. And if that was allowed, then the COVID directions in Queensland could have been completely removed, because they are unlawful. They have not been gazetted. Can call it the Arjay defence. In law school, they don't even bother telling people about the Statutory Instruments Act in Queensland as an example. My eyebrows going down. Whoop. Yeah, I had to shave my curly hair off. Anyway, and hi Jesse and Greg, by the way. So then I appealed it to the District Court. The District Court, again, I submit, breach of fair hearing rule. The first thing that was said basically in the court by the judge, and that's an actual proper judge, not a magistrate, was along the lines of, why shouldn't I throw this case out, Mr. Martin? And that is, before anyone said anything besides, you announce your appearance, you say, I am Martin, initial A, I am the respondent to this application. So with the District Court thing, so I put in to sue that police officer in her personal capacity, as she sued me in her personal capacity, to prevent me from protesting. The magistrate in an earlier court, the trial judge, if you want to call it that, or trial magistrate, also illegally prevented me from protesting anywhere in the universe on the 31st of May. So they don't even have that power. And, you know, again, you know, the judge erred in law. You know, there's just a brief summary. So when I went to the magistrate's court, so I was suing the police officer in her private capacity. I also added as parties Dr. Jeanette Young, who is the Chief Health Officer of Queensland, whose directions they are. But I'm in Queensland, so this is Kawarra Beach, so on the Gold Coast. If I went to the actual beach, you could see, you know, surfer's paradise. And thank you, Barbara, who says my shaved noggin looks good, on Hi Paul as well. So anyway, so when I put in to sue these people, including for damages, but also, you know, for declarations that the COVID directions were not law, declarations that certain part of the Health Act in Queensland is not lawful, it is invalid, etc. So the police, as in Queensland Police Service, was representing the sergeant, even though she, you know, sued me in her personal capacity, and she also, I submit, committed fraud or perjury, or both, when she falsely stated in her sworn document that mediation had been, you know, done in the magistrate's court, which had not been done. And anyway, so I also put in, obviously, for what's called a writ of certiorari or certiorari, you know, who actually knows how to pronounce Latin, since they didn't have, you know, gramophones or anything like that back then. But basically, if there's no statutory right to appeal, which there should be anyway, under certain acts, so it's, you know, already dealt with in previous videos, so I won't bore people who have already heard it. But basically, in the District Court Act, the District Court, when it's sitting hearing an appeal, has the same power as the Supreme Court's Court of Appeal. So they do have a statutory right to hear the matter. And then also damages was sought over $25,000. So again, you know, it's another statutory right. But with the writ of certiorari, that applies even if, or technically in Queensland, it's a writ in the nature of certiorari, because they got rid of, you know, I guess the complicated name, and there used to be some more complicated procedures than if it's just a writ in the form of or in the nature of that. So anyway, that can be used when there is no statutory right to appeal, even though the court themselves have a inherent right to hear appeals, especially from a magistrate's court to the district court, because magistrates aren't even real judges, even though, you know, statute now says a court can be constituted by a magistrate, but basically it's like political correctness. You know, we can't have a division between magistrates and judges. Anyway, so to summarise, the police officers' lawyers, being the Queensland Police Service, put in an application to try and have my case dismissed, to get it chucked out. And that was based on them claiming that the district court has no jurisdiction to hear appeals from the magistrates' court under the Peaceful Assembly Act in Queensland, which I submit is a load of garbage. But anyway, so when I went to the hearing with the application, and there is a journalist, Matt Rosengarten, with his Truth and Freedom report, which I've been encouraging people to, you know, subscribe to. He gave me a fair, you know, fair reporting, unlike some of the other journalists. And, you know, he's an interesting person, nice fella as well. So, you know, you can look him up. But he went to the application hearing and, you know, made a little video about it too, so you can look that up. And basically, the judge, as I said, this is along the lines of, paraphrase for everything, not legal advice, blah blah blah. I still don't have the transcripts because there's problems with Ausscript again. They still haven't provided the transcripts from the Magistrates Court hearing, even though it was ordered months ago. But apparently they're going to deal with that soon. They did claim that the case didn't exist, and then, I've sent them the judgment, and then last time I spoke to them, they said, we're behind with that one, we'll get it to you when we can. Yeah, but anyway, so then with the judge, she basically said, why shouldn't I dismiss this, Mr. Martin, and award costs against you, something like that. So then I put in some submissions. She did, appear to listen to some of them, but it seemed apparent from the start that, she made her decision, that she was going to say, that the court had no jurisdiction, that costs would be awarded against me, etc. So that's what ended up happening, and I did get the amount of costs yesterday that is being sought against me, and I will say that I do have a GoFundMe page. Facebook is, look, I'll try and post it now, but Facebook keeps censoring the link, which is freaking ridiculous. So I don't even know if you can see that link or how long it will last. But basically, if you look on GoFundMe.com.au, I think it's got a .au on it, and type in COVID-19 space 84 court case, something like that, it should come up and say Arjay Martin or AJ Martin and Anita Russell, and we do have about $3,500 in that, so that's very helpful and very generous of people to try and indemnify me, as in, so I'm not suffering the whole burden myself in terms of costs. But at the court hearing, basically Dr. Jeanette Young and the State of Queensland were both represented by Crown Law, and thankfully they didn't seek costs against me. They just adopted the submissions of the QPS, Queensland Police Service, and I got the Queensland Police Service bill yesterday, and then I asked for it to be itemised, so at least it's not tens of thousands of dollars, but it's $6,875 for me, so basically $7,000. So I do have until Monday to appeal that to the Supreme Court. Appealing to the Supreme Court is only done with permission, or leave as they call it, of the court. So it's up to them. If they think that it's a massive injustice, then they can hear the appeal. There were also other peculiar things with the district court, as an example, but again, I won't bore people to death with those in this particular video. I'll just quickly look through people's messages. Sorry, so apparently the wind's terrible. How am I going to fix that? Hopefully it's a little bit better now. I am trying to shield the microphone with my hand, and I'll leave stop the video in a second. Just say hello to anyone that I haven't said hello to yet. So hello Jeremiah, Paul, Jonathan, Nathan, hi Pamela, hi Karen, Leslie, Patricia. I don't know what you mean by sounds like a load of codswallop. I think that's when I was talking about the, odd things with Ausscript. So Ausscript in Queensland makes the audios and the transcripts for the hearings. It's fair enough. You think that's codswallop, their story. That one, this case doesn't exist, and then I provided that to them. And when I re-provided that to them, then they said, it would take another 10 days, even though, it should have already been ready. And, it's been literally months since I first ordered that. So that case was back in, it was on the 29th of May. So nearly 4 months on, and they don't have it. Hi Paul, I don't know what you're saying about separate, sorry. Jeannie says all our governments are corrupt and Freemasons. Hi Sharon as well. Georgie posted a link, I don't know what to, saying yes, they block all doors. Hi Stevie, thanks for sharing. Patricia, sorry about the sound with the wind, everyone. Hi Magali, or Magali, sorry. It's good that it's better now. The wind is picking up a little bit, so that's a bit annoying too. So hopefully you could understand at least some of what I was saying when it was windy. So so Patricia says codswallop about how they've treated me. So hopefully if a lot of people do know about this case, which unfortunately not many do, but hopefully everyone can share this video and share some of the other ones and whatnot, and tell your friends and family if it's on Facebook or social media, like other social media. Maybe some more people can do YouTube videos about it, that kind of thing. Then basically the more people that know about it, the harder it is for the government to sweep everything under the carpet, because of course there's a lot of consequences, especially before an election, if it turns out that I'm correct and the government has been illegally doing these lockdowns. And that applies not only to Queensland, but to Victoria with the megalomaniac in power at the moment. You can only go out for 1 hour a day between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. that I think's now till 9 p.m. But how ridiculous is that? And you can only travel 5 kilometres unless you're an essential worker like a government person. But it applies everywhere, and we win in Queensland and we win everywhere. So Kath's saying about PayPal, so there's no fees. So with GoFundMe, just so you know, they don't have fees apparently. I haven't withdrawn the money yet anyway. And with the GoFundMe account, it's specifically only for costs for court cases. So that includes things like, filing fees and if I lose and paying the other side, that kind of thing, as well as you've got things called disbursements. So say when it goes to the Supreme Court, I'll have to make things called appeal books, and potentially you can get those done for free, but otherwise you can't, that kind of thing. And should I win the cases, so therefore not have to pay costs eventually, or if it's deemed in a public interest, so therefore it's such an important case, which it is, that the court should deal with it and at no financial burden to me if I lose, because it's not about me, it's about everyone. Sure, I'm one of the people that actually has standing to challenge these court cases or these COVID directions, because my protest was specifically declined on COVID grounds, but that's just one aspect of it. We also had 25 or 28 police officers going around at an unauthorised protest, a common law protest if you want to call it that, which is legal, which was about 3 weeks after I was banned from protesting. And then they're intimidating me. I did do a video at the time to try and protect myself, and also the two other people that were really awesome and turned up, despite that the police officer called me beforehand and threatened me. I submit. saying that, you know, people get arrested if they had banners, that would make it an unlawful assembly, which is a load of garbage, and, you know, some other certain things. But, you know, we had people with guns following us around, and when we would walk, they would walk. When we stopped, they would stop. When I turned around doing the camera, I think it's TINLA episode 31, you can watch a whole thing that was recorded. It does have a little intro at the start too, with a little cartoon character face for me. But, you know, that's just freaking ridiculous. So anyway, so Shane suggests that you can't beat them in their kangaroo courts. So if there are enough people that do know about the case, and you go high enough in the courts, and basically they, you know, they could try and do other dodgy things, like just say, hey, look, you don't have leave to appeal. But besides that, then, you know, eventually the court, as in the court system, might well follow the law, which I submit that, you know, judges and courts are bound by the law, even though sometimes they seem to forget that. Hi, Heather and Leith. Yeah, oh, that's good, the wind's not so bad now. So just sort of have the phone's microphone resting on my hand and with my finger in the way on the other side of it. I was getting worse. Hi, Martin as well. Yeah, so Jeannie says they can now pick up anyone and drag them away in Melbourne if they don't obey the stupid rules. Very scary, indeed. And Gigi says the democracy is dead. And Jeannie says they are already brainwashed communists. Yeah, so, you know, I personally believe that people should be able to do what they like so long as it doesn't negatively affect other people, as a general statement. So, you know, if it's like a lot of memes have pointed out, you know, if masks work, then why the 1.5 metre social distance rule? Why you can only be out with 2 people? If social distancing works, then why the masks? If, you know, you got so many ifs, and you also have banned treatments such as hydroxychloroquine that it's been coming out over the past, you know, probably 2 months or something like that, that it does actually work and reduces so-called coronavirus deaths, even though it's people dying with the disease, not of the disease, but reduces it by 74%, one Italian study says. And then there's other studies that say, you know, 50% or, you know, other figures as well. But there's even been meta-studies or reviews of the studies that show that, you know, hydroxychloroquine, when used with zinc and azithromycin, this is why people just call it a Z-Pack, it's an antibiotic, show that it works. And you also have Australia's very own Professor Barodi saying, hey, use ivermectin, that studies have been showing that that kills the virus, or, you know, doesn't really kill it because viruses aren't alive, but stops it replicating within 48 hours. So how that works is it basically blocks the entry points of the cell, so the virus can't insert itself and then turn the mitochondrial factories into little virus farms. Yeah, so Jeannie says it's a politically motivated hoax and a political scam. Indeed, just wait until after the US election, and then all of a sudden it'll be, oh look, we've got this new drug called hydroxychloroquine and also ivermectin, and it actually works. Oh yeah, we were just mistaken, because, you know, it appears that the Democrats in the USA, and, you know, I wouldn't put it past the Republicans either, but they're prepared to get a bunch of people killed for political reasons so that they win the election. Yeah, so Georgie's posting about Bill Heffernan exposing corruption in Australia, so that's presumably, like, I can't see the links, I can just see the words of it, so it's like WZN blah blah blah, but obviously that's about the 28 high profile prominent Australians, including a former Prime Minister and High Court judge, that were, there was some police documents suggesting that they were going to Costello's boy brothel in Sydney. So, indeed, and you've got suppression orders on that, and that's terrible. And Jeannie says don't get tested. With sort of like vaccination too. How can I put it? The government isn't allowed to vaccinate people against their will. They can't do any medical treatment against people's will. It's prohibited specifically by the Constitution. And the issue is that you even have, say, in Western Australia in their Health Act, that they can restrain people to vaccinate them. And besides that, once they've vaccinated you, it's too late. They can just say, oh, sorry, that was illegal. Oh, that's no good. Hey, we'll do another little stimulus package. We'll give everyone $1,000 or something like that. But once it happens, it happens. And Jeannie's saying about them getting your DNA. I don't doubt that. And hi, Jenny as well, or Jenny. Don't know if you pronounce it the Finnish way. So I know a Finnish lady called Jenny. So anyway, I'll bugger off now, and I hope that you're all well. And Earl says an administrator might find a needle in their neck. I don't know what that means. But anyway, so please like, share, subscribe. And, you can donate to GoFundMe if you like. You can also donate to PayPal. So I do keep them separate though, because with the GoFundMe account, that's trust funds. So literally, if I was to spend that for things that I didn't say that it was to be collected for, then I could go to jail for fraud. So you can also donate to me at paypal.me, as in me, /Arjay, ARJAY, MARTIN, so Arjay Martin, if you like, but that is like just general funds or whatever. I am only a full-time student at the moment, so, anyone donating, it's more than welcome. And I do appreciate that, most people aren't in a position to donate, especially with this COVID scam lockdown BS. All the people that have had their businesses destroyed, and hey Johnny, you can only have 4 hours of work this week, but Johnny's got to pay his rent and pay for his wife and his kids, just as an example, and he's got to eat. Food costs money, and it also doesn't really help that people can't afford, a lot of people can't afford to buy a house and then grow a garden. If you do have the luxury of having some land that you can grow a garden and it's not temporary accommodation, then, hopefully you do start planting some food if you don't already. I get what you meant, Earl. I was just saying that I don't get it. Wink. And, that arguably is self-defense. And why don't the politicians have a thing that they get injected first? And, you got to have people to make sure they're not just being injected with saline water. So, anyway, hi Cameron as well. And anyway, I will bid you adieu. My French isn't great, but I think that means farewell. And bye. Woo. Hope you're all well and stay awesome.